let's slide on over to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, directed by James Gunn. His last run with the MCU comes out May 5th. This trailer is the second one we've gotten for Guardians of the Galaxy. This one gives us a lot more on the story here, tells us about the High Evolutionary trying to create a perfect society. Okay. He has a history with Rocket. I think he is the one responsible for turning Rocket into what he is, like a talking raccoon. And it's probably creates the world that the Guardians visit in the first trailer, where they're playing dodgeball with these different creatures, these different animals that can speak, and they speak different languages. Also, here we get more with like Quill in mourning after losing Gamora. Apparently, there is like the Endgame Gamora that's with the Guardians of the Galaxy. There is a Gamora, and he doesn't have a connection with her like he did with the original, the one he was in love with, and he finds that to be like a point of conflict. Is this the same Gamora as Endgame, Ricky? At the
I
end?
think so. That's what I'm gonna go with, but I don't know how they reconnect because we obviously see the Guardians in Thor: Love and Thunder without Gamora,
That's what I'm
and
confused about.
like where did Gamora go from Endgame? I don't remember her going anywhere or
Or
like
maybe she might be reborn from on Vormir and then just doesn't have the memories. That could potentially be it. But she looks a little bit different too. She's a little more angsty, much more in the vein of what we saw in Endgame. So it makes
hmm.
me think like somehow they're reconnected with the one from Endgame. I don't know. I'm sure they'll explain it. Uh, yeah. So what are your reactions to the second trailer? Anything new takeaways, I should say.
I think the first one hit me a lot harder, just emotionally and just like wow factor. This one was like, yeah, it still got you emotional, right? Still had the yell by Quill, still had the rocket, and like a flashback sequence there. But I think my takeaway from this one, is just more of what I just talked about, but more on like the villain side with,
Mhm.
hey, we got more of the high evolutionary, uh, looks here, more Adam Warlock looks here, like that, getting us a little more there. And we also, I will also say, we got a little more weird and funny, but we got more about Gamora and that relationship as well. Just by the intro saying like, oh, like Quill, like explaining basically movies 1 and 2, and then Infinity War and Endgame, and then saying where they are now with the current Gamora. So I did like that. We got more out of this, but still we don't know everything. And they didn't reveal too much except pretty much who the villain is, why he's doing this, and the Gamora situation, which I think will help have some clarity for us as we go into the movie, which is helpful, I think, to give us that information. So I don't think that's a spoiler.
Yeah, so, like, honestly, the Gamora thing, threw me off a little bit. I anticipate there would be a little I don't know. I'm willing to I'm open to, like, learning once I watch the movie, but I thought a big takeaway here was actually Adam Warlock, because we have the High Evolutionary might be the one responsible for creating Adam Warlock. The more I think about it, because like, hey, he's the guy who wants to create a perfect universe, and then like you have a great line in the trailer. It's where Rocket, who has this he almost like an enemy that he views the high evolutionary. I can't wait to watch them one on one in a fight sequence, just because I think it's gonna be a real emotional moment for Rocket and the audiences. But there's a moment where he says, well, he wants to create a perfect society, and then Rocket's like, no, he just didn't like the society he lived in, or something like that, right? It's just a man who's angry at the world. I want to know more about the high evolutionary, but also, what do we know about Adam Warlock? He's like the perfect alien. He is the perfect being, right? He is all powerful. He has um abilities that no one else does. And I want to know, when is the moment, because we know he's an eventual hero in Marvel Comics. When does he make this change, right? This shift from being on the side of the high evolutionary to the Guardians? Is it something that happens early on, or is it something that happens in maybe the third act, or maybe the very end of the movie? Because we see a moment where Drax is actually fighting Adam Warlock, and that has me wondering, oh my, when does that happen? Because that looks like it's pretty damn serious when they're going at it right there. And we know there's a moment where, from the trailer, Drax like gets like nailed in the heart, and he's got like this huge like burning like burnt
Right.
spot, as if like someone was like frying an egg on his chest for a day. You got to know that's Adam Warlock probably making that mark on him. And so, I mean, if you had to make a prediction, is this Adam Warlock as basically a sidekick of the High Evolutionary? Is that going to be, or like a under the tutelage of the High Evolutionary. Do you think this is going to be something that carries over most of the movie?
Yeah, I don't. I think so. I'm not sure. I think we might be seeing another sidekick. Maybe I'm not sure. Because yes, Adam Warlock ends up being a hero. I don't know too much about Adam Warlock. I just know that like he was created by scientists to basically be like a superhuman, like a Superman type thing, and to create like a supreme human race. But he escapes, and the High Evolutionary, who's also a scientist, discovers him, and then he wants to do his
Hmm.
own thing. And then Adam Warlock is like a son to him, and Adam Warlock's like a father to him, and like that relationship or whatever. But like his
Because we
pupil
know
type thing.
Adam Warlock is in that pod, right, with Elizabeth Debicki's character. I don't know if she like is the one who forms him or if the High Evolutionary has something to do with it. It just seems like really interesting that he wants to create this perfect world and he happens to have this perfect being alongside him. It makes you just automatically think he has something to do with like the creation of this person, or what you're talking about also makes sense, right? The adoption, pretty much. You
Yeah,
know,
basically, yeah. I'm not sure like how he discovers him. Like that's just like what I like briefly know about the character. But I think he's just basically like his pawn to like try to create like the High Evolutionary saying like, oh, like you said that line. That was such a good line, like the perfect society, like him to use him like someone who's perfect to create his perfect society. But then Rocket's just like, oh, like no, he just hates everything the way things are. Such a good like human element connection to the audience that's really hitting home and going back to the emotional factor of this trailer. Really like it. Overall, I think Adam Warlock, by the end of it, he'll have to go to the Guardian side to defeat the High Evolutionary. Maybe something up the High Evolutionary sleeve that he has, right? And
yeah.
like I'm not sure if it's another sidekick or I don't know that too deep into the High Evolutionary. I just know the relationship with Adam Warlock, but maybe it's something else to throw at the Guardians, and then they're going to need Adam Warlock to change sides real quick, and Adam Warlock to have that realization: holy crap, this guy's not a father figure. He's the freaking devil. I need to change sides.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see. I know I can't really look past this movie yet, but Adam Warlock is a major figure in Marvel Comics. So in a time where Marvel is like struggling to find like A and B list heroes to kind of helm the future of the MCU, I'm hoping that Will Poulter just kills it, and he's awesome. He does look like he looks the part, you know.
He
So
looks good.
and I'm obviously pumped for it. But Danielle Melchior also makes an appearance in this trailer. I think it's the same race as the woman that Peter basically has the one night stand with at the beginning of the first Guardians of the Galaxy, right? The red skin lady, right? She looks very similar to that, so I found that interesting. So maybe he like runs into like an old flame here, not her, but maybe someone else. Um, I what else? The song Since You've Been Gone. We got to talk about the music because it is a James Gunn trailer. So Since You've Been Gone by Rainbow, great song. I
Great
think it
pick.
also hints at Gamora, right? Since You've Been Gone, Peter going through it, Peter in mourning. And that's kind of like what the theme of this trailer was, along with learning more about the High Evolutionary.
I also thinking like it's a Rainbows the band, right?
Yeah,
I was thinking like, oh, they're in those jumpsuits and there's like a rainbow on
true.
that planet. That's
Taste the
honestly
rainbow.
what I was thinking, but your logic much better.
That's why. Yeah, okay. It could be both. It could be both.
No, no, no.
All right. That's probably the last Guardians of the Galaxy trailer. We might get one last one right before the movie comes out, but it's coming fast. We are only
Yeah.
3 months away. We got Quantum Medium coming up this Friday. Very exciting time for the beginning of Phase 5 of the MCU.
Yeah, and I only have one other takeaway from this, and it's the only other thing I know about Adam Warlock is that like his forehead, like the stone on it, it was the soul stone in the comics, I think. So obviously it's not the soul stone here. So I want to know what's on his forehead and
Yeah,
how is
in
that
the comics, he's a huge part of the Infinity Gauntlet
right.
saga.
Exactly. Exactly. Like similar to how what's his name? WandaVision. Vision
Vision.
has the yeah, he has a stone on his head. Adam Warlock has one. And this obviously cannot be an Infinity Stone because they were destroyed. So what's on his head? And I'm really interested
Does it
about
have
that.
further implications for the future of the MCU?
Does that yeah, exactly? Or is this how like Gamora comes back? Or I don't know. Or is this like how like he's a perfect human, like the scientist, you have to have this stone on your head? Or I don't know what it's gonna be, if it's gonna be big, implications are small, but I'm just interested because that's a major change.
Maybe it's placed by the High Evolutionary after he's
Right.
born. Maybe some
Maybe.
brain control item, maybe mind control.
Maybe. Yeah, it
Something
has to be
like
something different in the comics, and I like that how we don't know that. That's very interesting.
right. And he probably acts the way that the High Evolutionary wants him to. Just throwing some ideas here. So
Like
May
it.
5th, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.